so we are.
Right.
And he's pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Hello everybody, welcome along to round number 8 of the PSGL Season 33 Championship for the PlayStation Top Division. Welcome to Mexico City, welcome to the Mexico Grand Prix. 4 rounds to go of the championship, believe it or not, and there's certain drivers that really need to step up their game if they want to close up in the gap to the top of the championship. My name is Jess Paul, and joining me back in the commentary box like last week, we got Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Yeah, looking forward to tonight. 4 rounds to go. We're into the proper latter stages of the championship now, and real opportunities now for some drivers to make a claim for the championship or try and get themselves back in the championship hunt before we get to the final quarter of the season. So it's going to be a pivotal round tonight. It's Mexico. This will definitely be a make or break round for a lot of people's seasons.
Yeah, so remember last week we saw the likes of the Chinese Grand Prix. It was a wet race, and we saw Jensen took his first top tier win in like forever. His first win in PSGL for quite a long time. He had a very, very long winless streak, but he stayed on the intermediates for the whole race as well. We had Tom and the likes of Volakongen catching up to him, but Jensen did very well on his tyres. No puncher, and it was a great, nice underdog story there as well. Who knows, we may get rain in the race. No sign of it in qualifying at the moment, but Jensen really showed all the goods at the moment, and he's not giving up really.
Yeah, he definitely hasn't. It's definitely been no secret for Jensen that the past 3 seasons really in the top tier have been a bit of a struggle. There was a lot of a question mark over whether he'd be in F1 this season or whether he'd be moved down to F2. He kind of, I think we both agreed, he kind of got a little bit lucky with a lot of people moving to PC that he stayed in F1, but yeah, it's great to have that kind of feel-good story. We mentioned it last week that we always seem to get one feel-good race winner every season. Last season it was Louis at Monaco, and this season it's Jensen at China, so we've got that feel-good win under our belts, and maybe it's back to normality tonight. But yeah, the Chinese Grand Prix was a really, really great one. It was definitely a highlight of the season, I've got to say. Probably, in my opinion, probably the best race of the season that we've had.
Yeah, I have to say, there was quite a lot of good battles, and who would have thought a wet race would have brought that much entertainment here at PSGL? But it does, and it seems to do it in the top tier as well. But despite Max struggling with his contact with Kazizel, which caused him to get damage, he still scored some points last week. 4 points to his name. He's on 68 points at the moment. 14-point gap over Tom, who's still got a podium. To be honest, he was very happy about that. Markados is the one we need to keep an eye on, because if he doesn't deliver tonight, we could have a 2-horse fight going into Hungary next week. And then we got Kian Nando, Fabi Aurelien, Frankie, Jensen and Volakongen in your top 10. Volakongen, another one that benefited from the wet weather shenanigans. He got his first podium of the season, and he's now on 20 points. So that is your drivers, and then we got your constructors somewhere as well. Alfa Romeo is still leading that one, but Ferrari scored the most points last week. They're catching up to Alfa Romeo, so that could be a great fight between Alfa Romeo and Ferrari for the constructors. I think Mercedes really did to step it up with Markados, but I think surely it's between Ferrari and Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, manufacturer-wise, they're definitely looking at the two strongest. I think early season it did look like Mercedes were probably going to be the favourites for the manufacturer's title because both Marcados and Fabi had a win under their belts by the time. Well, not Marcados, sorry. Marcados had 2 second places and Fabi had a win under his belt by the time we got to round 3. But since then, they've both kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside and they've not really scored any points. In fact, since Austria, both of them have only scored 4 points in 3 rounds. So yeah, it's not been a great run of form, unfortunately, for Mercedes, so they've kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. So the same as it's kind of an important night for Marcados to get a good result, it's also an important night for both Mercedes drivers to get themselves back in the fight for the constructors. So that's going to be another storyline we're going to have to look out for tonight here as well.
Yes, we're now in to qualifying. A nice sunny day at the moment. We've got a few people that have set times on the board. It was built, this track, in 1959 by Mexico's most famous racing brothers, Ricardo and Pedro Rodriguez. It hosted a non-championship event in 1962. And one of the Rodriguez brothers was only 19 when he raced there as well. And then we saw 1963, there was a Formula 1 World Championship race won by Jim Clark there as well. And then it was welcomed back onto the F1 calendar back in 2015, and it remains a feature since then. So we're running on board with Tom at the moment, who's currently sitting second in the championship right now as he heads towards the stadium section for the first time as well. So we'll see what he can do. Keane's currently fast at the moment. The pole time for F2 was in the 1 minute 14, so we'll see if anyone can beat that. And Tom only goes 4 fastest for now. Marcados is second, Rowan in third. Stefano came across the line earlier in 6th. Fabi just came across the line in 7th position as well. And we've got a few people on outlaps. Now, this is a very interesting circuit. It can produce, I think, difficulty in terms of obviously elevation changes. It sits over 2 kilometres above sea level as well, which is quite breathtaking for the fans at least, but for the drivers it can be very difficult, especially the S's section as well. It requires a lot of nerve through there as well, and I think we could see a lot of track limit penalties, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I think we definitely could. This is kind of the main feature of this track, you've got to say, is the track limits. That tends to be a bit of a pain factor for a lot of drivers around Mexico. Another thing as well, not really much of a problem on this game anymore with the new tyre models and the new 18-inch rims that we've got, but in previous generations of this game, this track has been traditionally a 2-stop strategy. It is particularly hard on tyres, this track, apart from the pit straight. There's not really anywhere that you get a rest for these tyres, and it's very front limited, this track, so it can be quite hard on tyres. So you can see a lot of drivers just spinning purely on their own through overheating tyres if they're running too aggressively. So that's another thing these drivers are going to have to look out for. And of course, with these new ground effect cars, the curbs are a big problem here as well now. So whereas in past, the sausage curbs in the first 3 corners, and then in the corners in the S section, you could basically drive over them like they weren't there. That's not really the case anymore. The sausage curbs, while you can still drive over them, they can bump you offline, and especially in the middle part of the lap in the S section, if you're running over a curb, you can just bottom out and lose the car. So there's a lot of things to think about for Mexico. It's a very difficult circuit. Unfortunately, obviously, this game isn't advanced enough really to factor in altitude, because and we're kind of lucky in that sense, because if it did, that would make overtaking incredibly difficult, because in real life, as we know, the effect of the DRS and the tow around Mexico is pretty poor, because there is no air for anybody to be able to make a slipstream effect. So it doesn't really work really well, as we've got our first qualifying time into the 1 minute 14th, and it's Kazizel into a 14.9 in the McLaren. So he's the fastest at the moment. Just trying to see if anybody else is on a lap at the moment. Marlon is currently on a lap. He's had a really rough season so far. Has Marlon? He obviously picked up that podium earlier on in the season in Singapore, but that's the only points he scored this entire season. He currently sits 16th in the standings, which is way worse than where he was this time last season, of course, after a great debut season last season. But Marlon comes across the line now and goes P7 in the Red Bull, so not a bad first lap on the board there for Marlon. And of course, one thing we're going to talk about here as well is whether pole is actually worth it, because of course this is the longest run down to turn 1 of any track on the calendar. So does starting on pole or the front row actually mean that much? Is it better to start 3rd or 4th to get the toe into turn 1?
I have to say, that is a very good question as well, because I did a race around Mexico, I think it was around about a month ago, and to be honest, I was in a position to get pole position because the track was getting, I think, a lot lighter in terms of less rain, and I didn't really want it. I wanted like P3 or P4, and then when I got P3, I was very delighted. That didn't work because obviously everyone else had a straight line speed of an alien, whereas I didn't have great straight line speed that day. But yeah, I would say having a toe, I think it's more important here than in any other track. We've seen, I think, in real life as well, people starting 3rd, getting the best of start. So I think the third could be the potential pole position today, as Volakongan, one of last week's stars, goes up to the line now in that Red Bull. And Red Bull's done well in the past with Max Verstappen. He slots himself into P8 right now in that Red Bull car. We'll keep an eye on other drivers that are coming to finish their laps as well. We've got the other Red Bull car of Marlon, who's going into the pit. So he was not happy with his lap. We got the Haas car of Moborat, who's had a pretty good showing, I have to say, this season. He has had some ups and downs, but he is learning a little bit since being in this division as well, and hopefully he can prove himself from being in this division as well. Desso's about to start his lap. I think most people are just starting their second runs. Around Mexico, I think the last time we were here, season 31, it was a really great race, but not many people were able to improve on their runs in all the tiers in their final run. So maybe these first runs could be, I think, even more crucial. We saw that in F2. I think only the pole sitter and a few other cars were able to improve. So track evolution may not be as key here, or they may not just be aiming for pole position. Marcos and Frankie, fair play to them for setting the same time. Desso not that far behind as well. And Jensen, unfortunately, in P14. What can Rick do as he comes across the line while he's just about to start his run? So there we go. So 8 minutes to go in the session. Can't be anyone's game at the moment because he's all still out on top.
Yeah, because this is still on top. Keane's managed to dip into the 14s as well now. He's a reserve tonight in the Aston Martin. He was full-time, of course, for the Haas team, but he's obviously moved on to do better. Yeah, focusing on challenges now as Keane, so he's off to do different things. So he's now a reserve driver, but he's in the Aston Martin tonight, replacing the driver directly behind him in the standings, which is Nando, who's not here tonight, as Desso goes to the top of the timesheets in the Haas on a 14.8. Good lap there. Harry also just crossed the line to go P7. Another one of our pole sitters from this season is Harry in that Williams, so he goes P7 for the time being with the two Ferraris just behind him of 8th and 9th. Jensen currently ahead of Tom. And championship-wise, Max not having a great session so far, currently down in 15th. He's just started his next one in the session, but at the moment, quite a bit off the pace. A 15 point, well, I say a bit off the pace, a 15.3. He's only half a second off pole, but around Mexico, that is the difference between 1st and 15th on the grid. So it's incredibly close at the moment. So Max, if he can find just a little bit of time, he will gain a lot of places, but we'll see what he can do on his lap. This might be one of the tracks where Max doesn't really enjoy the circuit all that much. It kind of seems to be on or off for Max, isn't it? He either seems to dominate and win the race by a country mile, or he doesn't really seem to be anywhere near the pace, which is kind of a bizarre run for a championship leader of his. He's had 3 race wins, and then he's had 3. I think he's had 2 8th place finishes and 1 7th place finish to boot that as well as one other podium. So a really weird season for Max, but still our championship leader as he head through the middle part of the lap now through the S section. Then it's very, very fast, almost flat out all the way through. You may have to do a bit of a confidence lift in the middle part of 10 and 11, but he gets away with it through the middle sector. 55.8 is decent, but not going to be within the 14s unless it's a major final sector. This will probably put him in and around the 2 Ferraris, or maybe just ahead of the 2 Ferraris if he can nail this final sector. As he heads through the final 2 corners now at 16 and 17 and heads up towards the line. The Alfa Romeo crosses the line now, and it's actually a really good final sector from Max. So he ends up on the front row. So as I was talking about him not having a great lap, he's done the best final sector of anybody. So maybe Max taking the approach of not pushing outright too much in the first half of the lap and saving a little bit for the end.
I wonder if he's done a Lewis Hamilton type approach and maybe not showing his true pace early on to make sure not many people improve. Fair enough, and that could be interesting to see. And by the way, it was very close between Max and Desso's final sectors. Max did an 18.992 in the final sector. Desso did an 18.974. So Desso currently fastest in the final sector. Keane's got purple middle sector, and then we got Tom that's purple first sector. So not everyone has purple in every sector. So that's going to be interesting as well. It depends who obviously has low downforce around this track and which drivers have setups designed really for the twisty parts of the circuit in sector 2. As Stefano's been on those tyres for 2 laps though. That's a bit of a question mark for him as he's invalidated his run. So I doubt he's going to go again because he's ran out of fuel. Zizzle is still in the pit, but Keane then, who is just about to finish his lap at the moment, we'll see what he could do if he can get up to the top of the timing sheet and beat Desso. He comes up to the line. Yes, he can. 114.742. And that middle sector was what did it. He was 1/10 quicker on the middle sector than Desso, and he was also I think it looked like he was purple in the final sector for a little bit, but Marcos just beat him in the final sector.
Yeah, Keane looking really strong at the moment in this session. It's kind of a shame to see him move to reserve, isn't it? Because he's got great pace. But yeah, good time on the board there. I was just on board with Rowan. Rowan was a tenth and a half up on his personal best, but he's decided to dive into the pit lane. I think so that he has enough time to do a final run in the session, of course. So that is why he's in. He currently sits in P9. So keep an eye out for him. He's definitely got some pace locked away in his back pocket. But we'll see if anybody can improve on their final runs. It's typical of PSF1, isn't it? That they set all of their really good times in the middle part of the lap, and then nobody improves at the end, bar maybe one driver who jumps from the back of the field to the mid-pack. So it kind of seems to be the way of PSF1. It always seems to happen that way. So we'll see if anybody can do that. Just looking throughout the field. From 17th up, it's only half a second, just under half a second. That's incredibly close from 17th up to first. The three drivers at the back in Yaron, Mubarak and Rick at the moment. Rick, no time on the board. Mubarak and Yaron's time's not representative really of their true pace, so they're a little bit further off the back, maybe struggling a bit with track limits here, which of course we have mentioned before and we will be mentioning a lot tonight. And there's a lot of drivers on very similar, if not identical lap times. We've got Tom and Farby, 13th and 14th on exactly the same lap time. And we've got Rowan and Harry, 9th and 10th, separated by 1,000th. Frankie and Namaya separated by 2,000ths of a second. We've got Marcos the Max on the second row of the grid, separated by 200ths of a second. So throughout the field, it is incredibly close.
And that's what I like to see in PSF1, all the times close together as well, separated by just under a second between the top 19. Hopefully Rick can change all of that when he sets his lap in just a few moments' time. We are approaching the calm before the storm here in PSF1. So if you would like to check out our sponsor for the season, we are sponsored by GT Omega, and you can get 5% off all GT Omega products by using the code PSGL at checkout. And the link to those is in a description, or you can use the command !GT Omega, which is on your screen right now. So if you want to check out all the products and get a discount for it, there you can get it as well. And it's a really great brand, so thank you very much to them. As Jensen's about to start his final run, he's a bit out of sync compared to everybody else, which is interesting, but he gets a bit of clear air, so maybe that helps him a little bit. Maybe he thinks he's probably listened to us. Maybe he thinks that maybe people are a bit under pressure a little bit later on into the session as you get. Marcos a bit out of sync as well. Harry a bit out of sync as well. We'll see what Marcos says in bad. Oh, is he? I think has he invalidated his outlap? It's hard to tell. Let me have a look at the telemetry. Yeah, he has invalidated. Okay, that explains it. Every time I seem to go on board, they always send to invalidate. But here comes Marcos going again on his next run. But let's stay on board with Jensen then for his lap as well. We'll see who else has improved on their runs. Jensen's not improving at the moment on his lap. He's, I think, just saving a bit of battery now. I believe he's backed off now. Yeah, he is backed off a bit because he's saving a bit of ERS. So let's not follow him at the moment. Harry is improving quite a lot. He's purple sector 1 at the moment. He's 28.126 compared to obviously 28.243 that Kean set earlier on as well. So a massive improvement from Harry as well. Let's see what his middle sector is. The S's can make or break your middle sector. No improvement for Harry in that middle sector. He set 27.702. Believe it or not, same middle sector as what Stefano set as well, which was interesting. Kean is now purple in the middle sector as well, so he's probably finding a bit more time than ever. But here comes Harry, ups the line. Here he goes, 115.1. So I think the final two sectors was what lost him all the time there.
Oh, yeah, just as you were saying that as well, I was just on board with Marcos. He was a tenth and a half up, but he's dropped the car on the way into the stadium section and hit the wall. So that is Marcos' qualifying session over and done with. That time could have put him on the front row. I don't think it was going to get him pole. But yeah, Marcos throwing away a potential front row start there in the Mercedes. He's made that mistake coming out of turn number 12 and hit the wall. So Marcos' qualifying session over and done with. And at the moment, can't really see a lot of people improving on their laps. Keane's not improving. Desso's only 200ths up at the end of the second sector. Can he find anything in the final sector of the lap to take pole? Not quite. He improves slightly in the final sector, but he stays second. Max is up in the first sector. Can he be up in the middle sector? He is up in the middle sector as well, but still at the moment not quite enough to potentially get himself onto pole position. We've got one of the McLarens up to the line now as well. That is Stefano, who goes P3. Good lap on the board for Stefano, but here comes our championship leader, Max, then round the final corner. Can he get that Alfa Romeo onto pole position, or will he start on the second row with the grid? He crosses the line now, and he stays fourth. He loses all the time in the final sector, and Max only fourth on the grid.
Stefano, OP Stefano, only 15th. We got one of the Ferraris about to cross the line. That's not Tom, that's Jensen. Jensen remains in 7th position right now as well. A few drivers going into the pits. What can Gazizzle do? He's P6 at the moment. He stays P6, does not improve at all on his lap. I believe we have Namaya, who's about to cross the line, who goes into 7th spot. And he did improve on all 3 sector times. Not purple, but I'm sure you'll take improving on all 3 sectors. I think we've got the 2 Red Bulls up next. That's Volakongen and Marlon. Marlon improved to P9, I believe. As well, we've got one of the Mercedes as well up to the line. That will be Farby. No, Farby is going into the pit lane. So it's just, I believe, Borat, but he has invalidated. And maybe Louis, who's one of our reserves today. Guess what? He's invalidated. So, just like we saw in F2, nobody improved on their final runs to get enough to pole position, and it is Kian, our reserve driver, who's on pole, and it is by 27 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, incredibly close in qualifying. Again, I'm reiterating the point that it's a shame that Kian's now a reserve driver, because that is brilliant pace, and that's I believe that's Kian's first pole of the season, if I'm not mistaken. So congrats to Kian for that one. Really good qualifying. He looked strong all the way through, and in typical PSF1 fashion, nobody really improved in their final runs, really, apart from Stefano, who was the only real one of note that jumped up the field into P3 in the McLaren. So good result from him. I think that may be FER Stefano's best qualifying of the season as well, and also Desso on the front row. That is an underrated performance for a driver who only has, I believe, 3 points to his name for the entire season. He's currently tied for last, I think, potentially with the full-time runners on points. Puts it on the front row. That is a great quality for Desso.
Yes, it is. We'll go through your order very, very quickly before we head to an ad break. We got Kian on pole, Desso, then we got FER Stefano, Max, Markados, Gazizzle, Namaya, Tom, Marlon, Rowan, your top 10. Then we got Frankie, Fabi, Harry, Louis, Jensen, Stefano, Volakongen, Haron, Rick, and more Borak. And just in good timing, let's have a quick word from our sponsor. Welcome back to PSGL PSF1. We're 30 seconds away of about to start our Mexico Grand Prix race, and it is Kian that is on pole position. We'll have a quick look at what the track looks like. 17 the corner, 7 to the left, 10 to the right, and it has 2 DRS detection points for the drivers. We've got 10 seconds to go, so we're about to get on the way. No formation lap, of course, for the drivers, so we'll see what tires they go on in just a minute. So, will pole be a curse for Kian? We'll have to wait and see. 3, 4, 5 red lights are on. And we are underway here in Mexico. Let's see who has a good start. And unsurprisingly, Stefano getting a lovely toe heading towards turn number 1. It's going to be 3 wide. Don't forget, it's the longest straight on the calendar. And Stefano looks like he could lead. It could be 4 wide as well. Look at Desso. He's got a good start as well. But he's been absolutely swamped by a lot of cars. So the one who started third is now leading. Kian in second. And the cast has been caught napping. Desso, I think, has been caught off guard there as well. But Markados third, Max 4. Gazizzle here in the 5th. We got Tom trying to go down the inside of Gazizzle, heading towards turn number 4, and he's got a Williams box in as well, so it's going to be even harder as we head towards turn 5 and 6, and heading towards turn number 7. Namaya's got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting, but looks like Tom has to stay where he is at the moment. Frankie's made up 1 place, but he's going side by side with Marlon to the right hand side. You don't really want to be going side by side in the S's, and that is why Frankie's out of the session, and Marlon has got no front wing.
Yeah, and that is safety car out. First safety car in a long time, I think, in PSF1 as well for this season. But no front wing for Marlon. Frankie out of the race enough. If I'm in Frankie's shoes, I'm a little bit aggrieved by that. Marlon needed to back out of that one. He was behind going into the corner. You can't run side by side through the S's. That one I think is fully on Marlon. He needed to back out of that move and didn't, and it's taken Frankie out of the race, which is such a shame. A real shame. Another shame as well. Deso, they were running 3 wide through turn number 3. Deso on the inside just got caught on the sausage curb, bounced into the side of Keen's Aston Martin, couldn't really recover the car, and he spun down into 10th positions. Into the pit lane comes Namaya and Rowan. They're in for an early pit stop, as is Jensen and Harry as well. Rick and Marlon are also into the pit lane. I wonder if they're all... I think some of these are strategy decisions. Yeah, they definitely look... Okay, Jensen's is a strategy decision. He's gone on to the medium compound tyres. I think potentially...
They want to have 2 mediums. They want to have 2 mediums to use. They don't want to use those hard tyres because mediums can last quite a fortune around here. So that is not a bad strat. It can last 20 laps. So maybe 2 medium stints. I have to say, that's good. That's what I wouldn't have thought of that, to be honest. I thought staying on the hards will be the best option, but everyone who's picked the balanced option should have 2 sets of mediums. Rowan's gone on softs, which I don't know why, but yeah, that is. I think all of them are strategy call. Maybe apart from Rowan, but yeah, I have to say very, very bold, but a track where it could work compared to the other tracks.
Yeah, I'm just checking through as well to see all the pit stop phases. So I think Harry's was a strategy call by the looks of things. I think Rick was a strategy call, but he got held up in the double stack behind Rowan, which is why he's dropped back. Rowan's, I believe, was for a front wing change. Nami's was to serve his 5-second penalty that he got on the opening lap. So basically, Nami's is also a strategy call as well. His pit stop was just a little bit longer for that 5-second penalty. Jensen's was also a strategy call. So nice. We don't see this often in PSF1. We don't see early safety cars, and we don't see drivers doing something different strategy-wise. It's nice to see something a little bit different. So now I've got something to keep an eye on. Of course, Jensen won on a completely odd strategy last week in China. Could work again tonight. He's got to get through a bit of the pack to start off with on these hards, but they've only done a half a lap at full speed on the hards. The hards are not going to be up to temperature and full grip yet. The mediums will be a lot better in the opening phases of this race, especially around a track like Mexico where there's so many high-speed corners. You need the confidence in the tyre. The mediums will provide that for these drivers. As Harry is in, Rowan is in again, sorry, to get off of those soft compound tyres. I'm wondering if he's going to go back onto that set of hards again. Yes, he is. He's going back onto a set of hards. So I highly doubt he's going to be able to get those hards to the very end of the race, because I don't think the hards can do 35 laps around Mexico. And if they could, they're not going to be fast at all. The tyre drop-off in pace around here is pretty substantial. So odd strategy call from Rowan, but I mean, got to try something different. If you're not going to score points in a regular race, why not try something a little bit different and see what you can do? Another driver we didn't mention who's done something a bit different is Louis. He's in the Alpine as a reserve driver, and he is currently on the soft compound tyres. He started on the softs. I think this strategy would have worked if the safety car came out maybe in 6 or 7 laps time, not on the first lap of the race. If it came out in 6 or 7 laps time, he could pit for a set of hards and go to the end, but from here on out, far too early. But I think if I was still Louis, I probably still would have come in for a set of mediums anyway.
Yeah, I think he probably would have seen the likes of Namaya, Jensen and Harry come in and realised maybe I could do that too, potentially. Or maybe he feels like he can gain more positions from then on as well. But at the end of the day, you can only last maybe up to lap 11, lap 12, and you have no option but to go onto the hards anyway. So I don't get why Louis has gone for this, but we'll see if he gains position at the start. Now, Stefano is going to be interesting because he's not going to have the toe like he had on the first start. The ones who are going to have the toe is Kian and Markados. So watch for Kian and Markados on this restart. Watch out for Max as well, and watch for the guys in the middle. Stefano's not going to have it his own way. He has never won a race in Tier 1. He got promoted from F2 in the middle of last season, so he's still got a point to prove. Oh, as he hit the back of Kian almost through the final corner. Maybe that he could have got a bit of damage from that, but Stefano, he's left it really, really early potentially as well to potentially give the toe to everybody else, but we'll see what he can do. Heading towards his long straight then. Kian then, he's got the straight line speed then, so we'll see if he can get past into turn number 1. Louis got past far beyond those soft compounded tyres. Really early on, stays in at 7th position, but Stefano managed to hold Kian and Markados off this restart. That, I think, is probably a really good game that he's playing at the moment, and he's probably handling the pressure a lot better than expected. But Stefano's definitely trying to cover off Kian here and heading in towards turn number 4. Meanwhile, we got Louis. Tom's off! No, not Tom's off. Tom has been squabbled by Jerome, Deso, Fabi and Louis. Bearing in mind we had an interview with Tom last week, he's mainly focusing on challengers. He's not doing much practice for these leagues, so this is just about a bit of fun. That might cost him in the long run, but his main goal is challengers, and he hasn't raced here since season 31, so no wonder why he's struggling a little bit, which is a shame, but he's got Stefano, who's got a better straight line speed than him, that could get past him anytime soon.
Yeah, I just noticed for Tom as well, I noticed this on the second straight. I don't know if he picked it up in turn 1, 2 and 3 on this lap or whether he's picked it up at the start, but he's got left side end plate damage on that Ferrari. I don't know where he's picked that up, whether... Surely he must have picked it up in turn 1, 2 or 3 on that lap, because if he picked it up on lap 1, he surely would have been into the pit lane. He's now into the pit lane, so has he hit the back of someone like Kaziza or Max at the restart, or even has he hit them at the restart? So he must have done. He's into the pit lane. That is big for the championship, of course. He is the closest driver to Max, the only driver within a race victory in points to Max in the standings, so this is massive for Max. Max just needs to finish in the points now, and he will do massive amounts for his championship title fight as well. So, yeah, great opportunity here for Max to re-extend the championship lead that's been coming down a lot in previous rounds thanks to Tom's good run of form. But yeah, that is gutting for Tom, down to the back of the field after the safety car was further down the field. Those that pitted for the mediums are making their way through the field quite nicely. Jensen's already into the top 10 now, so that little held up from his teammates actually helped Jensen go forward a little bit. He's into 10th, Nemaya's up to 12th and Marlon's up to 13th, so those medium runners are starting to work their way forwards a little bit. Jensen's now got as well a little bit of clean air to push into, which will be nice on those medium tyres. He can get some pace out of them and catch up to the back of Jeroen, who's now inside the top 10 as well. Louis also in the other Alpine got past Kazizel down the pit straight. He is up into 5th. His next target is Max, but he's not got long left before these softs potentially start overheating, and he won't have the pace advantage over these hard tyre runners. So if he wants to get these moves done, he's got to get them done now, really, before the DRS becomes active.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, the medium runners definitely doing a lot better than expected, but they are around about 6/10 difference between the hard tyres. So if they really want to get the move, they wanted to get it done now. And Jensen is already catching on Jeroen once again, so maybe it's paid off with dividends. And Jensen, I believe, has set the fastest lap of this race so far, a 1:18.811, and we got the best lap from Stefano, a 1:19.391, and Louis 1:19.149, and he's on soft. So I think Louis is struggling more than the medium runners at the moment, which surely suggests that the softs probably not the best of tyres to be on right now. Probably a bad strategy decision. He's got to get past Max ASAP. Meanwhile, Nemaya in the background is trying to defend from Stefano. Stefano trying to go around the long way around in towards turn number 7. Now heading towards the S's now as well. He's going to try and get the cut back on this curve as well. You can't run too wide. That's where we saw Frankie and Marlon run wide in the S's section. I think people have learned from those mistakes to not go too wide into the S's. But Nemaya stays ahead of Stefano. He's probably very relieved about that. We will keep an eye also, by the way, on battery. Nemaya has used a lot of battery on his restart. He had the safety car to save it, and he's only on 22%. This used up a lot of battery through here. Marlon's back up to 13th, so that safety car has helped him wonders. Stefano, 66% right now. Let's see what's going on with the top 2 in terms of battery. Stefano is still leading, but he's almost derating. He's almost got 0% battery, so maybe it's harder to save ERS than you might think.
Yeah, definitely is. This is one of those tracks where it's pretty difficult to save ERS, because other than kind of turn 1 and turn 4, there's not really that many heavy braking zones around here, so you don't really save a lot of ERS very quickly around here. But Stefano, in burning his ERS, almost broke DRS on that lap to Kian behind, which is very interesting considering Kian was on pole in for this race and Stefano was 3rd on the grid. You would expect Kian to be a lot closer, but yeah, Kian, it's not exactly as if Kian's been saving loads of battery. Kian's only on 35%, so it's not as if Kian's been saving like crazy and is really up high and not using it. He is still using it. Stefano just looks very comfortable in the lead of this race, even with the lack of ERS he has got. And if Stefano can break DRS to Kian behind, that is massive, of course, because for the two DRS zones down the pit straight and the run down towards turn 4, there's only one detection point, of course, down in towards turn number 16. And if he can break that, that will put Kian very slow and very vulnerable to Marcos behind for those 2 straights. But Kian has just about managed to stay within range this lap around by the looks of things, so he will hold on to that for the time being, and that will keep him safe in 2nd position. Louis has used up all of his ERS in the early phases trying to get those moves done, and now is stuck behind Max now that DRS has been enabled, as Marlon sets the fastest up the race as an 18.3. Good lap there. Further down the field as well. Jensen going past Jeroen for P9 on the road now. So Jensen's making those medium tyres work. And if he can get those medium tyres to the midpoint of the race and pit again for medium compound tyres, then this strategy for Jensen, it will definitely be a success.
He's always a mastermind in terms of strategies. Last week it paid off, and maybe we can have a second week in a row where he also likes the strategies as well. And to be fair, he hasn't got involved in much in carnage at all this race as well, which just goes to show, I think, something may have clicked for him as well. He's probably played a little bit smarter as well, which is great to see. A lot of these drivers have nothing to lose at this stage. They can just pretty much have some fun, but bearing in mind it's not that long to go until the end of the season. There'll be people thinking, right, where would I potentially end up next season on a new game? If I don't deliver well in these last few races, I could get demoted down to F2, and that's not what the drivers would want to see. And Jensen set a sector one time, which was about a few tenths faster than anyone else that lap as well. So he is definitely pushing. He got past Jerome a lap ago, and he's going to try and potentially get past Desso this lap as well. They're all on the same DRS train, Jensen, Desso, Fabi, Cazizzo, Louis, Matt. Pretty much everyone down to 10th is in that same DRS train. So Jensen could potentially sniff a victory, but it's not. Well, it's not possible for him at the moment, but he's playing a patient game, which is what we like to see. And he's also got Jerome pretty much losing a bit of time to him as well. So I think Jensen's move on Jerome was definitely worth it right now. Apart from that, not much changes up front. Stefano still leads, but with less battery. But it's a question of when, really, for Jensen to get the move. But it's not going to be that long where the hards become the more optimum tyre. So we'll watch out for that and see when Jensen's tyres start to drop off.
Yeah, Jensen and Marlon's kind of raw speed at the moment. Marlon on the previous lap was the second faster than our race leader, so they've got great raw speed. And this, again, always the raw speed or the mediums at the start of the race. This isn't even including, of course, the first couple of laps, though they didn't do the first couple of laps on the mediums. This continues to kind of prove my point, well, not prove my point, but make me question why so many drivers just decide to start on the hards and don't start on the mediums, especially if you start at the front of the field. We've seen it commentating on other leagues, and we're seeing it right now that in the early, we're 10 laps in, and the medium compound tyres are still comfortably a faster tyre. And there you go, Marlon and 18 flat that time around. The mediums are comfortably a faster tyre than the hard compound tyres. So why we don't see more drivers starting on the mediums and trying something different and going shorter in the first stint and then undercutting onto the hards and getting an even bigger gap, I don't know, because we obviously, once the hards are on the car in the second half of the race, when there's less fuel, the hards aren't going to struggle as much, and there's not going to be that big of a pace difference between the mediums and the hards in that sense. So I still get very confused every time I commentate as to why more people don't try that strategy of starting on the mediums. But hey ho, we can all dream, can't we? Hopefully that'll be something that's a lot more common on the next game, fingers crossed. But yeah, Jensen's doing a really good job up in 8th place now. I think he's now kind of content to maybe sit in the train, because we know that being on the mediums, if he's got that fresh set of mediums still to spare that is obviously not used in qualifying, he will have to pit earlier than the hard runners anyway. So if he can pit earlier and gain maybe a couple of laps on them, the undercut here is very powerful, so he can gain positions that way. And of course, Louis is going to be having to pit soon as well. That's going to break this train up. That will make it overtaking for Jensen a little bit easier if he can. So yeah, that's going to be one thing to note. Jensen here looking for potentially 2 very good results in a row.
That'll be great to see as well. And I have to say, Jensen's tyre management is looking pretty decent as well. And he will probably get to the 50% mark at around about lap 17. And that's potentially when the guys will probably come in for another set of the memes anyway. So if he can hold his pace for pretty much the next 9 laps or so, then he should be fine. More Jensen is good at, and what we saw last week was definite tyre management. We saw people get punches quite early on when Jensen was able to stay on these tyres for a lot longer. So that is his trait at the moment. His tyre temperatures are looking quite good as well. His ERS usage looking pretty decent as well. So overall, Jensen looking too good. Louis' tyres, on the other hand, well, his rears are looking a little bit worse for wear. 56 on the rear left, 53 on the rear right. So, yeah, it's not going to be that long at all before he definitely has to come in, because otherwise that will be punch territory very, very soon. When will he get to 17%? Oh, 3 laps to go, and then he'll hit 70%, according to my predicted strategy and telemetry. So there we go. So I'm a bit worried for him that Louis not coming out now, but yeah, Louis has got to go onto the hard compound tyres, otherwise he's going to lose time. He's not coming in that's a bit of a shot. But here comes Markelos then. He's going to potentially use his battery on this front straight. You can see Key in his harbour stick. So if I was Markelos, I would go for the move now. He's not going for the move now. He's being patient. And all of this is allowing to do is allowing Stefano to increase the gap a little bit. I'm a bit shocked about Markelos, really, but sometimes he may be thinking about other strategies. He may be thinking to go out longer, maybe push a little bit later on, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm a bit perplexed, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think for Markelos at this point in the race, I don't think it's worth the risk. I think once Keane is out of DRS range, then definitely go for the move for Markelos, get up into second, see if he can latch onto the back of Stefano. But right now, considering where he is in the championship and that he still has an outside shot at the title, it's probably best to play it safe for this early pace of the race, and then if an opportunity comes, take it. And of course, if it doesn't come before the pit stop phase, jump him in the pit stop phase. So that will definitely be Markelos' plan, I would assume. To be fair to Louis, I'm amazed that we're on lap 12 when he's not starting to lose paces. He isn't all over the back of Max like we saw maybe 5 or 6 laps ago, but he is still holding firm in this train because this was putting him under a little bit more pressure now. But the longer Louis can stay in this train on these tyres, the better that is for his strategy later on. He's obviously going to pit onto the hard compound tyres. I think he's not coming in this lap. No, he's staying out for another lap. He has almost lost DRS on that lap, but not quite. But I think the longer that Louis can stay in this train, the shorter he can make the hard stint, and that will make it even better for him. And of course, he's going to get the undercut on everybody in front when he pits for the hard compound tyres. So for Louis, actually this strategy might work out in his favour. But here comes Kazizel with a really late dive down the inside of turn 1. Louis gives him the space. Fair racing there for Louis to give Kazizel the space, but I don't think for Kazizel that move was really ever on down the inside. That was a really late move, didn't quite get there in time. Kazizel, is he going to think about the move maybe down in towards turn 4? I don't think he's quite close enough. And of course for Kazizel, he's worried now that because Louis is starting to struggle, that Kazizel's going to lose touch with the top 4 here. So for Kazizel, he kind of wants to get this move done as quickly as possible to latch onto the back of Max. The only good saving grace for Kazizel is that he has got a lot more ERS than the 5 drivers in front of him. Everybody in front of him is either 40% ERS or less. Kazizel at the moment is above 80, so Kazizel has got a lot of battery in his back pocket to use.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know why he was saving some ERS, to be honest, but he can use it in his back pocket towards the end of that hard stint, which I think can be crucial for a pit stop. So if I was him, maybe use it just before you're about to pit as well, and when you're going out for an overtake. Just look at that train, that helicopter shot going through the stadium section. They're really starting to go for here as well, and Louis is out of DRS train of Max, so no surprise there that Louis has came into the pits onto a set of the hard compounder tyres. Who knows, he may surprise us to go on a set of mediums, thinking that there could be another safety car, but oh, he has gone on mediums. Okay, I thought it was a joke, but mediums apparently last 20 laps. We've got more than 20 laps to go of this Grand Prix. It could just about do it, but I doubt it. He just got to be good on his tyre management. We've got Markedos and King going side by side towards turn number 4. Markedos, really great move, slips it down the inside, and he's up into second place at the moment. He's going to chase down Stefano. Don't forget, Markedos has never been the bride. He's always been the bridesmaid. He's been so close to a win on many occasions. He's missed out on the win to Fabi, but he admitted on that day that he was helping out his teammate more than himself. And there was a few other races where he missed out on the victory. He has the pace, but not the consistency. And this could be Markedos' chance. And like we were saying earlier, if Markedos doesn't perform today, and if he doesn't outscore his main rivals in the championship, he's pretty much out of this fight. And we got Tom that's not scoring any points at the moment. He's down in 19th. And we've got Max in 4th. So ideally, Markedos has got to get past Stefano, really, in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, for Markedos, this is a great opportunity to get back in this title fight. Like you mentioned, Max is currently in P4 behind him, and Tom's not scoring any points. So for Markedos, this is the perfect opportunity to get that first win of the championship and really put himself back in the fray for the title fight. Like you mentioned, he's finished second 3 times this season, and I think on potentially all 3 of those occasions, he's lost the win with a late move kind of 5 laps from the end. So apart from Spain, of course, Spain, I believe he picked up a little bit of damage, but still able to hang on to second. But every other time he's finished second, it's because of been a late race pass that he's lost the lead. So that's going to be one thing. As further down the field, Nemaya and Urona going side by side. Nemaya on those medium compound tyres, trying to get past the Alpine. The Alpine completely off the road on the outside there, but Nemaya is through and into the points. A driver who definitely needs some points this season is Nemaya. He's only got 8 points to his name, and he picked up 1 point last time out, but that was it. Kian now 3-second time penalty. That is our first track limits time. No, it's not. Rick and Mubarak have track limits penalties, but that is our first driver from the front of the field that's picked up a track limits time penalty. And to be fair to these drivers, 15 laps in, I was maybe expecting a few more track limits penalties, but I think everybody's just saving it until the end of the race when they really start pushing, and then we're going to see them all coming in. So we'll see about that. And just keeping an eye on Louis' times as well. Louis only got Harry in front of him, and then after that he's got another 8 seconds to the next car. So he's got no traffic really in front of him, has Louis. He's coming up to finish his first proper lap on these medium compound tyres right now. So we'll see what his lap time is in comparison to the leaders, of course. But it's looking like a decent lap so far from the Alpine driver. I am still questioning, though, this strategy onto mediums, because hards would have been a much safer bet, and it's a 17.8 there from Louis. As you can see, he goes fastest of anybody as Stefano crossing the line on that time. Stefano was 1.7 seconds slower on that lap, so Louis has got a lot of pace on these fresh mediums, but again, I feel like he would have had a second advantage in pace over the leaders if he'd gone for the hards and still been able to get to the race safely. So it's a big risk. It is a huge risk for Louis, but I mean, he's a reserve driver. He's got nothing to lose.
I did see, I believe, Harry get another penalty as well.
Yeah.
So you were talking about track limit penalties, and suddenly a lot of other people are starting to get penalties. So commentators cursed for both of us, it looked like, as well. I was a bit surprised that not many people have got penalties yet, but again, probably being conservative in the last few laps, and now they're really starting to push before they go in and to the pit stop. So pretty much almost halfway into this race. Stefano leads with Marco in second, Kian third, and Matt's in fourth. Stefano is in, and so is Kian. So
Wow.
those are going for an early stop. Now they can make it to the end from here, but they won't be their optimal pace at the end, even though they can last 20 laps. So they can do it, but there's going to be people that pit later, but will be able to push a bit more towards the end of the race. So Stefano and Kian going for the undercut. So is Fabi as well. He is coming, so we'll see what their middle and final sectors are as well, but they have to warm up their tyres a little bit as well. You can see Louis in the background as well, as he's trying to get in the mix of something. Louis is right in the middle of Stefano and Kian, and that is not what Kian wants to be. Harry's also in this fight as well, even though he's on 15 lap old mediums, and he still have to pit for a set of mediums as well. Harry is struggling a little bit in this race today, but surely there's plenty of time for him to come back into this one as well. But great news for Stefano, who's pitted, who's in clear air now. Not good news for Kian, because now he's got to worry about getting past a lot of cars to get into some clean air.
Yeah, and I think those early pit stops may have actually saved Louis here, potentially, because his tyres are only 3 laps older, which is not that big of a difference now. So that might have actually helped Louis in his strategy, in that other drivers have come in fairly early. I'm surprised that drivers are coming that early. Marcados is into the pit lane now in reaction. Max is in as well, our championship leader. But we've got Kazizel and Dessa staying out. Kazizel is nothing, but is nothing if he's not doing an alternate strategy, is Kazizel, isn't it? He's always doing something a little bit different. So he takes the lead, and he's got a comfortable gap to Jensen behind. But the fact that the hard runners have pitted before the medium runners definitely says something about those medium compound tyres, potentially, that they're lasting maybe a bit longer than some drivers were expecting. But here comes Marcados out of the pit lane, by the way. Marcados out of the pit lane. Can he get ahead of Louis? That is the crucial question. Louis got the DRS. He's got the run down towards the straight. Is he going to go for the inside line on the Mercedes? He's not close enough to go for the move. Marcados, though, is not going to have his tyres fully up to temperature. Louis got an opportunity here to get past Marcados and into a net second on the road. Can he get the run out of the corner? Marcados, of course, no DRS for him. He's not been through a detection point, as here comes Louis down the inside towards turn number 4. He'll have the inside line in fire. Marcados, I would back out of that. And he has. Marcados has backed out. Louis now in a net second, all of a sudden, having started on the softs. There we go. That is why you do alternate strategies, people, because Louis started on the softs. He's now currently running in a net second from 15th on the grid. So Louis doing a brilliant job, but the lack of ERS he's got now means that he's potentially dropping away from Stefano. So Stefano here with an opportunity to pull away from this train behind, which will potentially save him his first win in this top division, which will be great for him as well. We've got a lot of drivers fighting for their first win in the top division. We've got Stefano fighting, Marcados is fighting, Kian's still in this fight, of course, as well, even with that penalty. We've got Kazizel out the front of the field doing something a little bit different. And
Nemaya's in.
Yeah, Nemaya's into the pit lane. He's the first of those medium runners that pitted for the mediums under the safety car to come into the pit lane at the midway point in the race. But I'm if I were racing in this race, I would be doing what Kaziza and Desso are doing right now, which is staying out a bit longer on these hard compound tyres. The hards aren't dropping off in pace. If Kaziza can go maybe 1 or 2 laps longer than he has done now, maybe even 3, and not lose too much time, the power of a fresh set of medium compound tyres, a fresher set of medium compound tyres could be massive, especially because it is so easy to overtake around here.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of overtakes around here, not just one, but quite a few overtakes as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this race unfolds. I think cheering in the commentary box, so we weren't going to get any rain for the race where we saw it. As we saw one of the Red Bulls going a bit wide, that was Marlon in the S's section. Luckily, he's kept the car on track as well. I wonder if we'll see Marlon and Rick coming into the pits very, very soon as well. Maybe they're hoping for a potential safety car to change things ever so slightly. Marlon is really struggling with those medium tyres right now. That's why potentially he was going on for one of his longest stints now and then coming into pits very, very soon, because we've got around 17 laps to go. They can make it to the end from here. And I think Desso's staying out as well. Those are the only two that are staying out. Everyone else has going into the pits. Oh no! Our championship protagonist, Tom, he's got a 3-second time penalty to his name, and this day has definitely gone from bad to worse. He's down in 18th spot. He's going to hope for a safety car as well. Someone else just set a fastest lap of the race. I've got to check who that is. That was Markados with a 1:17.491. And Tom has decided to call it a day. Unsurprisingly, he's retired in the pit lane. And that is a vital, vital blow to his championship chances. I think even though Tom may not lose that many points, because Max obviously is at the moment going to finish in 9th. Max in a net 3rd at the moment, so after overtaking Louis. So this is a detriment to Tom, not gonna lie, and you never know, Max could win the title in a couple of races' time.
Yeah, definitely potential for it. This is big for Max that Tom has retired from this race already. If I were Tom, I would have kept going until lap 33 or lap 34 when it was impossible for another safety car to come out, because a safety car could still bring him back into contention. But yeah, his race is done, so he's out of the race, and that is bad for the championship for him. Of course, Desso into the pit lane now, then off those hard compound tyres. Stefano and Rowan and Mubarak are all continuing on. Volakongan is into the pit lane. Marlon's continuing on his medium compound tyres. I'm wondering if Marlon is going to come in for a set of softs, is what I'm thinking. We saw Louis manage to get 13 laps out of the softs at the start of the race on heavy fuel. That, of course, was with safety car intervention, but it wasn't a particularly long safety car. If Marlon can go to lap 24 and put on the softs, that could work, potentially, for the Red Bull driver. And, of course, he's not really in a position to be fighting for major points anyway. Why not try something a little bit different? If you're ever going to try something different on strategy, Mexico is the place to do it. As further down the field, Jensen's come out of the pit lane just behind Yaron on the... Desso, sorry, has come out just behind Jensen. Jensen's just behind Yaron on the road. So, one thing to note after that pit stop phase then, because this was obviously dropped to the back of this train behind Fabi, but he is not a mile off this train in front. And he's got 6 lap fresher tyres than Louis. And one thing to note, Louis' tyres, of course, we've got a yellow flag. Oh, that's Marlon. Just as we were talking about Marlon on a different strategy, Marlon has spun coming out of the S section just before turn 12 and has hit the wall by the looks of things. So he's got damage on that front wing. So that strategy we're just talking about with Marlon has gone completely out the window. His race is pretty much run now unless there's another safety car. So Marlon, again, having a horror show of a race, unfortunately, and it's looking like no points are on the board again for the Red Bull driver. But as I was saying, for Louis' tyres are 4 laps younger than most of the drivers around him, 3 laps younger than the 2 behind and Stefano, who's the net leader. But Louis is already a lot slower with that, even with that small difference in tire life. He's already dropped quite a way off the back of Stefano. Of course, he was directly behind Stefano after Stefano's pit stop phase. He is now nearly 3 seconds back, and that's only in 4 laps. So I think we're already starting to see that Louis is already a lot slower on these older medium compound tyres, which makes me think Kazizel's in a really good spot here. In fact, Kazizel won that lap, managed to drive from outside of DRS range to inside DRS range, while all of the drivers in front are in a tow. So Kazizel at the moment has got really good pace.
It's going to be hard to potentially pass a lot of cars at once for Kazizel, but if I was him, he's usually a patient driver at times, so he may just pick them out one by one. But he doesn't have that long to go to do it right now. We're going to compare lap times to other people's as well, and obviously Markados is only 2 laps older than Kazizel. Markados just did a 1:17.4. Kazizel's tyres are not properly warmed up yet, so I think we won't see until I think a few laps time on whether him pitting a few laps later would be the best option. Top three still staying out with Stefano, Rowan and Mobat, but if they go into the pits, it won't be that much of a surprise. But it'll be interesting to see if anyone takes a gamble for these soft tyres. Track temperature, by the way, 31 degrees. Air temperature, 23 degrees around this Mexico City circuit. So quite hot for these drivers to contend with. Not as hot as obviously other circuits right now. As we could start to see, I think, a battle for the lead on track with Rowan and Stefano, keeping their heads cool as well, hoping for a safety car dance. They're probably doing dances in their cockpit right now, but here comes Rowan, using his DRS. He's not going to use his ERS because he's not going to overtake, it looks like. Maybe he's not. I think they're going to work together to make sure they can stay ahead for now before Stefano catches up at the moment. Marcados is last at 118.1. Jensen, by the way, set a purple first sector on 3-lap old medium, so Jensen's not in a bad shout to do well in this race either, even though he's 2.8 seconds behind Cadizzle. So we'll keep a comparison between Cadizzle and Jensen's time. Jensen is a lot faster by, I think, about 4 tenths on Cadizzle, so I think Jensen, is getting used to those medium tyres a bit more than Cadizzle at the moment. Or maybe Jensen is pushing more, and maybe Cadizzle is conserving until the end of this race.
Yeah, I think Cadizzle's now that he's caught the back of this train, I think he's also being potentially a little bit held up now as the McLaren driver. He's right on the back of Fabian Kian almost immediately, so I think he's playing the patient game as we mentioned he will likely do. But yeah, potentially a little bit of struggle there. By the way, Marcados has got within DRS range now of Stefano, and there's the fastest lap from Jensen at 17.3. Good lap on the board from the Ferrari driver. Marcados has crucially got within DRS range of our net race leader Stefano now as well. So opportunity back open now for Marcados to still win this race. We've got 2 drivers fighting for their first winners further down the field. We've got Kian and Fabi going side by side, but Fabi's gone off the road, and Cadizzle was going to punish him for that one. Cadizzle was through and up into 9th position. Fabi drops down to 10th. So clearly Fabi going for the move on Kian. Move didn't pay off, and Cadizzle's done the patient thing and he's picked them off as he's made the mistake. So Cadizzle's up to 9th. Next opportunity for him is Kian, and Kian crucially is dropping out of DRS range now because of that fight to Louis. So that will make it even more easier for Cadizzle to make the move. As another thing to note as well is that Stefano now is catching these hard runners, and these hard runners potentially could hold up this train, and that's only going to play further into the hands of the people on the fresher tyres.
Yeah, that's going to help the lights and Jensen. Also Dessa as well, who's on pretty much the newest tyres of the bunch as well. So potentially the later you pit, the later that it will help you as well, because obviously the drivers will be in more dirty air if they pitted early. If they pitted earlier as well, they were hoping to get on clean air. They weren't, and we'll see if Stefano can get past Paul Barak into the start-finish straight. No challenge there for Stefano, so that's one hard tyre runner that he's got in contact with. But here comes Marcados and Stefano side by side towards turn number 1. Marcados could take the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix, but no, he's not. Rick is out of the race. This could change things ever so slightly. Stefano goes off the road, but what about Marcados' challenge once again? Marcados has got the DRS, so as Stefano, so it could be an even challenge at the moment. We also got the Alfa Romeo also joining the fun as well as they head towards turn number 5 as well. Marcados, I think it's been a bump and run for these guys at the moment as they head past turn number 6 and 7 as well. Max in this as well. That's one of the Alfa Romeos we're talking about. We're having a 3-way fight for this race victory, and Marcados almost got the race lead, but Stefano just had that extra pace. What a battle we are seeing. Marcados just found that pace. He was able to get past one of the hard runners, and he was able to close in on to Stefano as well. Rick is out of the session, and yeah, I don't know who's going to win this one out of this top 3. They've all got similar tyre life, and unless it's a safety car, I think it could be any one of those guys. Morback still yet to pit, by the way, as Rowan's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I wonder if Rowan is going to go onto a set of softs. I do see red tyres in the AlphaTauri garage. Nope. Oh no, I thought I did. It's mediums. Okay, medium tyres for them. But here comes Marcados' second challenge for Stefano then, as Marcados finally takes the lead of this race. Could this be the first time winner that he's looking for in this top division? But Stefano's never going to give up. He's already dropped away from Marcados. So Marcados a lot quicker than Stefano this lap, maybe due to the tyre life at the moment. Max is up to 4th place, and he could challenge Stefano at this rate as well. This could be a Marcados versus Max showdown once again.
Yeah, definitely could. And Marcados there, crucial as well. That fight with Stefano's eagerness to keep the net lead of the race drove off the road by himself and picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. So that crucial error there from Stefano has helped Marcados no end as well. So Max back in this fight for the win of this race. Louis still somehow in this on much older medium compound tyres. He's latching onto this back of this fight. At the moment, he's in a net third in this race. So Louis doing a brilliant job. Another one as well is Kazizel's. They've managed to get past Mubarak in that last lap as well, who went off the road at turn number 2. So Kian, Kazizel and Fabi all managed to get the move done fairly easily on that hard runner. Stefano staying out for another lap. He is continuing on. Here comes Marcados for a move on the back of the Aston Martin. And FVR Stefano's really dropped off the back of Marcados. I don't know if he's got maybe a little bit of damage that we can't see or whether he's just really struggling on these mediums now. But Marcados is stretching his legs. He is through on Stefano and crucially through on Stefano without letting FVR Stefano through at the same time. So that is massive as Rowan's retired in the pit lane, unfortunately, from 15th place. He is out of it. Crucially for Marcados, he is through on OP Stefano, and FVR Stefano is going to have to stay behind the Aston Martin potentially all the way through this middle sector, which could give Marcados a really big lead that they won't be able to recover from.
This is really amazing to see at the moment, the strategies that are being played in this division as well. We've got people on older tyres still yet to box. We've got people that have been on tyres for 13 laps. We've got people on newer tyres as well in this train. Anything could go right for these drivers, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and we do not have that long to go until the end of this race. Let us know your thoughts in the chat, guys, on do you think any one of these drivers like Stefano or Marcados could get their first win, or could Max get his fourth win of the season and could get one step closer to becoming F1 champion of season 33? Only time will tell. And we got Stefano, who eventually makes his pit stop onto softs. Here comes Max on Stefano, taking the shortest run in towards the start-finish straight. Then not the line I would have taken in towards turn number 1, not going to lie. Louis wants to have a say in this as well. But almost a bit of contact once again. But Stefano trying to close the door on Max. Very, very good for him as well. Kian has got, I think, lost it in towards turn number 1. So he's down into 10th place. So he's not going to be in that fight now. Louis going to try and go around the outside towards turn number 4. He could get Max here as well on older tyres. Louis could be on for net P3 here at the moment. But he's, I think, being a little bit patient at the moment. But Max just can't get past Stefano. And that just shows how good Stefano's pace at the moment is. And even though without that penalty, Max wants that win. Max wants that win. He has spoken to me that he wants that race victory today. And nothing is going to stop him until he gets it. If he does, he'll gain a lot of points on Tom at least in this championship as well. He said hopefully a win. He wasn't feeling that confident around this track, not gonna lie. So usually the tracks he's not as confident at, Aiden. He usually wins. So maybe today this could be it, and that could be the case.
It definitely could, but Stefano really aggressive defending on that lap, but fair racing as well. He always left a gap, but it was aggressive racing against our championship leader, and that's given Marcados a 2.5 second lead. Marcados is comfortable out front. Here comes Max once again on Stefano into turn 1, but not close enough to make the move. They've also got to keep an eye out, though, for the other McLaren with Kazizel. He's up to 5th, right on the back of this train, and is dragging Fabi with him as well. They're right in this fight now as well for the podium as Max gets a mega run off of turn 3. I don't think Stefano's got any answer for it this time around. Max is through and up into 2nd place on the road. Stefano's down to 3rd. Nothing he could have done that time around. Max just got such a launch off of turn 3 that he was able to breeze past before they got to the braking zone. So Max, our championship leader, is up into 2nd position. Stefano down to 3rd, and Louis is now clinging on to that final spot on the podium. But he is really in the fight with Kazizel and Fabi for that final spot on the podium, because Stefano's penalty is going to drop him way down the field. In fact, Stefano's penalty at the moment will drop him behind Desso. So he has got, he's going to lose a lot of places here from leading the majority of this race. Stefano's potentially going to finish outside of the top 8 here, which is really rough for his race, but it's really fallen apart ever since they caught those hard runners. But yeah, 7 laps to go when we cross the line. At the moment, without penalties, it is looking really good for Marcados to get his first win. But Marcados doing everything he needs to do to get back into the championship fight, but the problem for him is that Max is doing everything he needs to do to extend his championship lead, and at the moment, even with a win, it's not enough for Marcados. He needed Max to have a bad race to really get back in the fight, and at the moment, Max is doing perfectly fine as here comes Kazizel down the inside of Louis in towards turn 1. I don't think Louis is going to have the grip to fight this, and he doesn't. Louis backs out of it. Kazizel's up to 4th. His next target is his teammate, and I would not be surprised if FVR Stefano lets his teammate through.
Yes, I wonder if they're going to play the team game in the McLaren garage at the moment. I just have to say with Marquardos and Max, Marquardos has been a tenth quicker for the last few laps on Max, which is why obviously he's increasing the gap by quite some margin. And with that squabbling between Max and Stefano, that was helping Marquardos increase that gap. So Marquardos must be loving life up front at the moment. He's only got one warning, so he could potentially get, I think, at least another warning if he wanted to. Maybe in the final lap if he wanted to extend the track limits a little bit. Because it was on 2 warnings, so is Louis, Fabi and Jensen, so they got to be careful. Giroud's on 2 warnings, Nemaya's on 2 warnings. Nobody's on 0 warnings. Everyone has got at least 1 in this race, which just goes to show how hard it is on track limits. Quite a few drivers are very close, by the way, to getting a penalty, because this will being one of them. We've got to keep an eye on how he pushes it for these next couple of laps as well, as we're going to start lap 31 of 36. 3.2 now is the gap between Marquardos and Max. He's absolutely loving life up front as well. Stefano in third, but with that penalty will push down to 4th. Stefano's still looking quite pacey against Max, so it may not be over yet, but Max has got the straight line speed at the moment. But unfortunately, you can see Louis dropping off. He's not saying personal best in any sector, but you can see Cazidlo improving a lot as well. And the top 9 still in that train, so any of the top 9 could still get a decent result in this race, could still get a podium. And we've also got to fight for the points as well in terms of penalties, so that can change things, man. I'm not surprised not many people got like 9 seconds. I thought people would have got 9 or 12 seconds of penalties, but I think that's just people in lower leagues, it seems, to get those. But, yeah, I'm surprised about that. Cause I've seen in other tiers in PSGL where they got loads. But, yeah. What can Max do in these finals few laps to make sure that he can close in on Marquardos? Could it be too little too late, or does he still have a chance?
I think at the moment, looking at the pace, Marquardos is just continuing to pull away at the moment. So I think it's kind of too little too late. Max's only chance, I think, of winning this race is Marquardos getting a penalty at this point in the race, we've got to say. Marquardos has got such a comfortable margin now that he can afford to lose 1 second or 1.5 seconds just backing off over the next 5 laps and not extending the track limits in any way. So Marquardos is in a really good spot here to potentially pick up his first win as Harry picks up, I believe, potentially his 3rd penalty of the race, if I'm not mistaken. He's having a horror show at the back of the field in 15th position. Mubarak, it took him 31 laps, but Mubarak has finally pitted off of those hard compound tyres. He is in for what I assume will be a set of soft compound tyres. And for the 2nd race in a row, it looks like he's going to be going for the fastest lap point that you won't get because he's outside of the top 10. So he will at least try and get something from this race. But I think if I remember correctly, he's the only driver in the field on a pad, which means this is not really the track that suits pad drivers. So I'm not surprised that Mubarak has struggled a bit tonight in comparison to how his pace was back in previous 2 races of Baku in China. So hopefully he'll be back to his better best in these latter stages of the season. But yeah, it's really started to mellow out now, hasn't it? Now that they've passed all the hard runners and everybody's pitted and all the tyres are pretty old, everybody's just kind of chilled out a little bit. I wonder if it's going to start blowing up again with 2 laps to go. But at the moment, it looks pretty settled. And Marquardos, again, just a 10th quicker here and there, continuing to pull away for Max. Max doesn't have an answer. But for Max, I don't think he needs to have an answer. The fact that Tom is out of this race completely, I think is more than enough for Max. I think at this point, he kind of doesn't need to worry about Marquardos at this point. He's got a 28-point gap on Marquardos in the championship. And of course, the maximum you can get in one round is 17 points. So even if Marquardos won with fastest lap and Max didn't score, Max would still have an 11-point lead in the championship. So, yeah, at the moment for Max, he is doing just enough to hold a comfortable lead in this championship.
And with Tom out of this as well, who are not scoring many points, this is very good news for Mercedes as well, because Mercedes could get 16 points. We got Fabi, who's sitting in P6 as well. And to be fair, I did rule out Mercedes coasting in 3rd in the championship, but with Alfa Romeo having Frankie out of the race, Max is only going to score like 12 points. Mercedes is going to score more than that with 16 for Marquardos, and I can't remember how many points 6th place gets, but it adds more than 12 points. So Mercedes could potentially maybe go up to 2nd or even 1st in the Constructors' Championship. I'm not rubbish. I'm not good at maths, so I'm not going to do my calculations. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's why I can rely on Aiden, who's a lot better than maths than me. But yes, we're about to start lap 34, 36. 3 laps to go of this Mexican Grand Prix. Don't forget, we got Hungary next week, Jeddah the week after, and Brazil to round off the season. And then that will be the end of PSGL on F1 at 22. So we could have a move for P5. We got Fabi and Jensen as well. Jensen to the right. We got Fabi to the left of your screen as well. And Jensen almost got the switch back there, but Fabi has got past Louis up to 5th. Jensen has got past Louis up to 6th. Jensen has lost 2 places out of all of that, which is not ideal at all, but this can be Jensen's the chance at the moment. Jensen is on way newer tyres, so is Kazizel. If I was Kazizel and Jensen, I would use the opportunity to try and get past as many cars as you possibly can. I know he won the race last week, but that was on wet. I have to say, this is one of Jensen's best race in the dry conditions, because it's Mexico. It's a really hard circuit. He hasn't gone well with Mexico in the past, and I have to say he looks very, very comfortable and chosen the right strategy from the get-go. Pitted earlier on with the safety car onto the mediums. He's been on 2 sets of mediums throughout the entire race, and this could really help him as well, trying to get past that. But he could get past Kazizel as well. He's that good on pace at the moment. He can really start to push, so I'm very excited to see this. Margados is literally 2 laps away potentially on securing his first ever win in the top division. It can be a long time coming. We're not going to say anything more, because I'm worried we could jinx him, but he's looking like the favourite at the moment. Here comes Stefano and Max. Stefano is back on the attack once again. Where has he come from? Max made a mistake there. Stefano is up into 2nd place in this race all of a sudden. Jensen down the inside of Fabi. There's all action going on in the last few laps. You did say, Aiden, that actual break loose then, and it has. And Fabi could fight back here as well. We got Deso in this as well, heading towards turn number 4. Can he make it stick? No, he can't. Jensen is up to 5th in this race. Really good call from the Sushizu guys as well, and brilliant move from Stefano. I know he's going to drop down positions, but with him overtaking Max, he's just reducing his deficit a little bit. And Girone has got past his teammate.
Yeah, Girone's up into 8th. A bit of a sleeper great race here for Girone. He did not have a good qualifying, but he's snuck into the points with a really good drive in the race as Girone. He's doing a brilliant job here for the Alpine team. And Louis' tyres have hit a cliff now, haven't they? They hit the 20-lap mark, and they've fallen off the cliff completely, those medium compound tyres. And yeah, great move from Jensen through on Fabi. Fabi, another one with really old tyres in this field. He's struggling now a bit for pace, and Jensen getting through and into 5th. Great result, like you say, for him. Obviously won last time out, but that was in very unique circumstances. This time around, a much drier normal race, and he's made an inspired strategy call. But here comes Max back on Stefano down the pit straight. He's going to easily get the move back done on the McLaren, but here comes Kazizel as well with that abundance of ERS he's got in his back pocket. He's going to try and go down the inside of his teammate, but his teammate shuts the door on him at turn number 1. But surely Kazizel's going to have the run on him down towards turn number 4, and surely Stefano's not going to fight it too hard, because Stefano's going to lose the time anyway. He doesn't want to fall behind Jensen as well. He doesn't want to waste time fighting his teammate.
I think he's going to let his teammate... Oh, no, he's not.
He's not. He's going to fight his teammate for the position, and this is only going to hurt him, because at the moment, if he continues to fight his teammate, Jensen's going to have him as well, and he makes contact. Kazizel tries to go for the move down the inside, and he spins off the side of his teammate.
And he's got a penalty.
Yeah, because there's that penalty as well. I'm sure that penalty will probably get removed for him, but what was easily going to be Kazizel's best result of the season completely thrown away there with contact with the side of his teammate. And I don't know why Stefano decided to fight that one so hard, because that's cost their team big.
Wow, let's jump on board with our race leader. He has driven an absolutely great race. He got past Stefano. He held off the challenger Max. He's lost the win many times before, but it's not happening today. He has finally got a win in PSGL PSF1, and I think he will say it's about time. Max in 2nd, Jensen up to 3rd. He's got his 2nd podium in a row. That, I have to say, he's one of my driver of the days as well, with that strategy call and him avoiding trouble. He has scored a lot of points recently. He's going to get 10 points. He'll be on 31 points. He will jump a lot of drivers in this field, because bearing in mind, we've got no Nando today, no Aurelian. So Jensen will pretty much be in this top 5 of this championship. Fabi's got a good result as well, up to 5th. Deso, good race from him. Girone, good race as well. Louis, not too bad, but he could have gone on a different strategy. Kazizel, a shame with his penalty, but I think that could get removed. So Jensen may move down to 4th. Kian in a 10th spot. He gets the final point by 8/10 of a second. Volacon, gonna have to say, had a decent race as well. Just missed out on the points, but again, he was in a unique situation last week. But Aiden Margados finally is a PSGL PSF1 race winner.
Yeah, finally, that's such a great news story as well. 2 weeks in a row, two great news stories. Like you say, it's been 3 seasons in the making for Markados. He joined in. A lot of people questioned him joining the top two of PSF1, and for the first half of that season 31, he really did struggle. He struggled a lot for pace, but managed to get some good performances at the end of the season to solidify a spot in the top division. He came close in Kota last season, didn't he, to getting that first win. He wasn't quite able to do it, but he still had a brilliant result there. But yeah, it's been a long time coming for Markados, but finally it has come. Markados gets his first win of the season. And I think beyond the fact that it's also his first win, that also ends a streak of really poor races for him. He's only picked up 4 points in the last 3 rounds after having 3 second places in the first 4 rounds of the season. That'll be a big confidence boost for Markados, that he's had a rough run of performances recently. That'll bring him right back up to the front of the field where we know he can be capable of performing there every week. So yeah, that'll be massive for Markados' confidence going forwards. And again, another great performance from Jensen. Where has this Jensen been for 3 seasons? Because this Jensen looks like a completely different person. That was a brilliant result from Jensen. And Jensen's gone, I think, from something like 16th in the championship to 9th before this race. And now
he'll be the top 5.
I think he's potentially going to be top 5 here. I think he might be 6th just because of Fabi scoring enough points to stay ahead of him potentially. But either way, where has this Jensen been for the past 2 seasons? Because this Jensen's looking incredibly strong.
Yeah, and it's great to see people having comebacks. We have seen it with Tom as well. Unfortunately, Tom has had a bad race, but hopefully he can fight back going into, obviously, next week in Hungary. But I have to say, Jensen from 15th to 3rd, that is a comeback story, I have to say. And Fabi, 12th to 5th, he's definitely honourable mentions. Jerome from 18th to 7th, Louis from 14th to 8th. A lot of these people who had good races were the ones who pitted under the first safety car. So that just surely suggests on how good the pace is. Markados obviously pitted, I think it was around about lap 20, but he was on very good tyres as well. But let's run through your order then, because Markados is very keen to be interviewed. So we got Markados, who is 1, Matt's in 2nd, Jensen 3rd, Stefano 4th, we've got Fabi, Desso, Jerome, Louis Cazador, Kian Volakongan, Namaya, Harry, Stefano, Morborat. Those are your finishers. And your retirements are Rowan, Vic, Marlon, Tom and Frankie. There's quite a lot of people in the PSF1 chat, bless them, that are very happy about Markados' results. So that's great to see that they're supportive. Unfortunately, Max is not going to join us in interviews today. He's got other stuff to do, which is understandable. But at least we get to hear from Markados. We will actually, no, let's wait for Markados because we got Jensen in there. So we usually interview our podium sitters first before we interview our race winner. So yeah, Max just said something in German, which I can't understand, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we will jag. Sorry to cut you there. You were having a nice chat with Markados, it looks like. But Jensen, another podium for you, a second podium in a row. Once you got in the dry with wet with a win, now you got it in the dry with a really brilliant strategy call to pit on the safety car.
Yeah, didn't expect to be on the podium from P15. But yeah, I'm very happy with that. That was, such a fun race to drive. Made the moves at the right times. And yeah, in the end, I don't know if Stefano gets his penalty removed or not, but it's a podium at the moment. And I think he might have had some incidents in the race, but at the moment, and hopefully afterwards, it's another podium, which is really good. Really happy with.
What is this Jensen that we're seeing? Because at the start of the season and throughout the whole of season 32 and maybe season 31 as well, you were struggling a little bit. You were struggling to pick up finishes as well and points. But now you seem to have a good run of form. You seem to be enjoying the game more, it looks like. Like you were saying, you were having a good race. What has changed since the beginning of the season? What do you think has helped get your run of form at the moment?
I mean, I was new on the Fanatec at the start of the season, and I wasn't getting up to speed really with it. But I'd say around Austria time, I started to finally get up to my old pace or beat it, and yeah, now it's starting to put in the results. And yeah, I think it's my tyre saving era is back from F1 2021.
Yes.
And my deg is always the deg is low once again, around Mexico. I was only getting 60% on the 18 laps on each stint. So yeah, it was very good. And yeah, I'm surprised I managed to I was catching up like a good few tenths a lap on the train as well, which surprised me as well. I felt my pace was really good. I had the fastest lap at one point. I don't even know if I still had it or not at the end of the race, but yeah.
I can't
Pace was
remember who
good.
got fastest lap because my telemetry is not saying that now, which is annoying. But yeah, I have to say I was looking at your time management throughout the entirety of the race, and I have to say it was looking really, really good once again. So yeah, I think your old Jensen is starting to come back, which is great to see. Probably because you're getting used to the fan attack, like you were saying as well. And are you confident that this can carry you through? Potentially, you proved that you could do it in the dry now as well as the wet. How do you feel about the rest of the season? Is this still going to be a learning season for you before F1
I'm just gonna treat it as I has this whole season, like you said, just learning with the new wheel, and I've mainly just put my focus for 23. That's where I'll start to try and put in the results. Much I only had the 2 hours of practice tonight,
Wow.
and I didn't like. I think it was only until the last practice session I did where I finally got my final setup, because I don't know, it was just impossible to find a setup that worked around here, and obviously worked tonight. So yeah. And as for the last races, Hungary, I don't know, and Jeddah, I don't know. Brazil, I usually have good races around Brazil, so maybe Brazil, maybe Jeddah as well, but Hungary, I don't know. But yeah, you can only wait and see.
Anything can happen usually in this turn. I can't wait to see how you do. Aidan, any questions?
Well, congratulations, Jensen, on a second podium in a row. Haven't spoken to you at all for 3 seasons, and now we get to speak to you 2 weeks in a row. So very bizarre, but yeah, congratulations. I guess it's weird. What is it for you, I guess, about tyre saving that seems to work really well for you? Because obviously this game, I think obviously one of the problems with this game, you're really good with tyre saving, but tyre saving's not really been that much of a factor on F1 22 as it has been on previous games. What is it? Why are you so good at tyre saving? Let's say what is it about tyre saving that you're so good at?
I'd say it's my driving style. Wouldn't reveal that to everyone.
Obviously.
But all I could say is just, yeah, I've always had a smoother driving style over like the aggressive driving styles of some drivers, and that's always why I've had better race than qualifying. But obviously, you need a good qualifying to usually have a good race. But on tracks like Mexico, where you can overtake fairly easily, then qualifying isn't the most important. Or your race pace is definitely the most important of a lot. As you see people, like some people just drop down the field in the race, some people making up loads of places. So yeah, and of course strategy. In the end, knowing the tyres will go to the end is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. And the alternate strategy you played worked out pretty well in your favour. And your driving style definitely suits your namesake of Jensen, because that was what got Jensen Button so many wins in the past, wasn't it? So yeah, you're definitely driving like your namesake definitely does as well. So that's good. Well, I could just confirm as well, by the way, you unfortunately didn't get fastest lap. Opie Stefano stole that off of you at the end of the race.
I saw the results screen.
Yeah, so he's stolen that off of you, unfortunately.
I mean, it doesn't take anything away from me, to be honest.
No, exactly. It's still a brilliant result for you, and of course a great result for 2 great results in a row for you now as well. So obviously, it doesn't take away anything from your performance to lose that. But I guess final question for me: Budapest next time out. You obviously mentioned it's maybe not as strong of a track, but it is a track where tyre management can come into play sometimes, especially if it does rain, of course. And we know how rain works for you and how it worked out for you in China. Do you think it's another track where you can be in the fight for the points again?
Maybe points, but definitely not anything like tonight. I can't find any rhythm at Budapest. Like, it's been like commonplace for the last games. I can't drive the circuit at all. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just, I just can't find anything for it. I can't maybe set up or anything like that, but yeah, it's just impossible for me to be that high up.
Understandable. But yeah, congratulations on 2 podiums in a row now. Brilliant result from you tonight.
Thank you.
From one great story to another, we've had someone that won last week with his maiden victory in PSGL PSF1. We move on to another driver that joins the PSGL PSF1 Winners Club. And it was about time too, because we saw it coming. We thought he was going to do it in France. We thought he was going to do it in some other tracks this season. But he's finally done it in Mexico. Marcos, first of all, tell us what was your raw reaction? How are you feeling that you finally got your first win?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, as you said, finally the first win. After so much second places and heartbreak races, now finally, yeah. I know my pace was really, really good in the race from practice. Yeah, P5 is not the best place in qualifying, but it's okay. And then, yeah, I have a really good car in a straight line, so also better car in a straight line than the TF guys. That was important on this race. And then, yeah, ERS is here on this track, maybe the important thing on the world here in Mexico. And yeah, ERS saving is such an important thing here. And yeah, that I do really, really good. I have also a lot of luck because I was able to overtake the hard runners that extend their stints, also Stefano. And yeah, and then I and I was able to extend and manage the gap. And at the end, that is the first win.
Yeah, I think that's what helped you, to be fair, as well. You were getting close to the 70%, so I was a bit worried that you were going to start to lose pace at the end, but you seem to be increasing the pace on Max a little bit. You said you were running a straight line, a better straight line setup, maybe compared to the TF guys as well. That probably took into account in what your approach in qualifying. I guess you weren't aiming for pole, were you? Were you just aiming for a top 5 potentially, or were you just aiming for higher? Because I think you not aiming for pole just seemed to help your approach here.
Yeah, also I was 1.5 tenths in the delta minus to the third sector, and then I binned it in the wall. So maybe
yes.
it wouldn't be P2 or P1 maybe, but at the end
It didn't matter.
it's yeah. And then P5 is not a really bad result in a quali. So yeah, I was happy with the time. You must also nailing the lap because of the a lot of places we can invalid the lap. So yeah, it was a really, really good weekend.
And obviously there was a lot of people varying strategies as well. And you got like OP Stefano that was on all the hard tyres. And then you had Stefano as well. You had Max. That battle must have been obviously quite intense with people on varying strategies. What made you feel so comfortable to go for those moves?
Yeah, as I said, the ERS is really, really important here. And yeah, Steph was flashing maybe 30 of 36 laps. So I know I was in a better situation. And then, yeah. I know in the straight line my car is good. So, yeah, important.
Very, very nice. It was a great battle to watch, not gonna lie. So great job on that. Aidan, any questions?
Well, congratulations, Marcos. It's felt like a long time coming, but you finally got that first one on the board. So really happy for you. That's a really great performance for you tonight. I guess as well, how does that help your confidence as well going forwards? Because of course you had a really good start to the season, but it's fair to say the past 3 rounds haven't gone your way. They haven't been particularly great. Is this win a real good confidence boost going forwards?
Of course, yeah. The first win is maybe click in my head. So yeah, hopefully that is. The next 3 races are also okay for me, I must say. So China and the 2 rounds before, yeah, wasn't the best tracks for me. So yeah, now it's again. Also, the tracks was not the funniest ones. So tracks are must to drive, must
Yeah.
be fun. And China was a shit track. But
And pretend that
I'm
Marcos didn't say the S word. Sorry about that, folks, if you're offended by that.
But yeah, I'm also really, really happy for Jensen that he has also now. I'm not saying luck, but he has not the
He found his
bad
form
luck.
again.
Right. And then yeah, also Fabi P5 in the end. I think
Yeah.
it's a really, really good team result. So yeah.
Yeah, good team result as well. Like you say, that obviously helped Mercedes a lot manufacturer-wise, and you two worked really well together as a team. Going forwards, and you mentioned the next 2 tracks for you are pretty decent tracks. How are you feeling about the championship? Of course, you're a little bit far off at the moment. I think the gap is 24 points, which it isn't miles off, but it is a bit of a big gap considering you only get 16 points for a win. So, how are you feeling about the championship? Are you still going all out for it?
Good question. I think I go from race to race. So at the end, if it's Brazil's 10 points to max, or it's deciding in Saudi Arabia. So I go from race to race.
Yeah.
Of course, the 20 points now to max. So yeah. If he got 0 points, then maybe. But yeah, he's
Still
a really, really
doable.
consistent driver. So yeah.
Yeah, still doable, like you said, Jess. But yeah, if the opportunity comes and the gap really closes, then you're still in it. But you'll take it race by race, like you mentioned. So yeah, brilliant stuff from you tonight, Mark. It was really great for you to get your first win on the board, and hopefully that's one of many to come.
Thank you.
So that was all of our podium sitters as well. Because like we were saying, Max couldn't make it tonight, but that was probably one of my favourite Mexico races I've ever commentated on in a while, actually. It definitely brought out the fun, especially on the final few laps. Obviously, the middle was a little bit quiet, but some great stories we were seeing once again as well. And certain drivers that we needed to step up were stepping up. And the likes of Tom really did not have the best races tonight. So I think we're seeing quite the opposites from some drivers. But yeah, another great story today and another great race.
Yeah, another great race, like you mentioned, really good story. And it always seems to be the case of when one driver goes up, another driver goes down, doesn't it? We never seem to be able to get lots of people on a good run of form all at once. It seems to be the case. But yeah, Marcos goes up and Tom unfortunately goes down. So not great for Tom in the championship. Yeah, really unfortunate for Tom tonight. I think even a solid point score would have been, I think, decent enough for Tom, considering that he's not a huge fan of Mexico and he's not done it a lot previously. So yeah, to get no points on the board at all for Tom is really gutting. So he's obviously going to drop down to third in the championship once again because of Marcos' win. But yeah, we mentioned before the race even got underway, before quali really even got underway, that Marcos has to put a performance in tonight to keep himself in the running. I think he heard us because he did exactly that, and it was a really, really good performance from Marcos. And like we said multiple times, it's been a long time coming. He's put these performances in the past, but in the past he's either got damaged late in the race or someone has just had that little extra 1% at the very end that Marcos hasn't been able to hold them off. But this time around, played off beautifully, absolutely played off beautifully for Marcos. Really good result. Only problem for him is that Max was able to finish second. So Max is doing the Dinerco tactic, isn't he, at the moment?
Yes.
Where when he's not winning or where he can't win, he's picking up as many points as possible and flying slightly under the radar, but doing everything he needs to do to hold the championship lead. So for Max, even though he's lost to Marcos, I think Max will be very happy with how the results panned out tonight.
I think he was. I think I saw in the Discord that he wasn't too disappointed with P2 because more importantly, he gained points on Tom and Tom didn't score any.
Yeah.
So, yes, a good result all round for the protagonists that were near Tom in the championship. So I think they're going to be very, very happy with that as well. So that will be the end of PSGL for the time being, until obviously Thursday when the PC tiers start again. Like we were saying earlier, Hungarian Grand Prix is where we're going to be visiting next Monday, a track which is the home of the Iron Curtain, Monaco without the barriers. Rain could happen around here as well, like we saw in real life last year. George Russell took his maiden pole. Will we see a maiden pole here? Will we see a maiden victory like we saw with Damon Hill in 93 and Jenson Button in 2006? We'll find out same time next week. But don't forget to check out our sponsors, GT Omega. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PremierSimGL. Check out our sponsor, GT. I think I said the sponsor again, but you can use the code PSGL at checkout to get 5% off. Connor will go mad at me if I don't say it on stream, but I said it anyway. For myself and Aidan, have a good evening, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and we will leave you with our title sponsor for the final time. Have a good evening, and goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.